Hey everyone! I know you haven't heard from me in a while, aside from a few scattered social media posts, but I assure you that I have been hard at work on two big projects: the Printalyzer UV VIS Densitometer and the Printalyzer Enlarging Timer. I now have big updates to share on both, so here goes. First and foremost, I'm pleased to announce that manufacturing for the Printalyzer UV VIS Densitometer is finally underway. I hope to have the first batch of devices ready for sale by the end of the month, with a goal of the product going live by the start of next month. Obviously, the actual timeline depends on when various final bulk orders come through, but the situation is looking good. Now, some of you may be wondering what the difference is between the UV VIS Densitometer and the original Printalyzer Densitometer. On the outside, the two products look very similar. However, on the inside, there have been a number of changes and improvements. Most notably, the UV VIS Densitometer adds the ability to measure ultraviolet transmission density, a warmer 3000K light source for visual density measurement, a focusing lens for a tighter measurement spot, a flashed opal diffuser, and temperature calibration, which especially helps keep ultraviolet measurements consistent. I've also revisited how calibration materials are prepared. The calibration materials will now be traceable to NIST transmission references and metrology lab reflectance references whenever possible. As a side note, in the process of working through calibration, I've had to design a number of 3D printable measurement jigs. I made these to improve consistency and ease of alignment when measuring various step wedges. If anyone is interested, I've uploaded several of these designs to Printables, and the link is in the description below. Unfortunately, all of these new features do mean that the UV VIS Densitometer is going to be more expensive than the original product. As such, I'm going to continue to sell both versions for as long as supplies last. However, once I run out of component inventory for the original Printalyzer Densitometer, I likely won't be doing another production run of the original design. I know I don't talk about the Densitometer desktop application very often. This is because, while it is an invaluable tool for my own internal development and testing, there are now easier ways to get density readings from the Printalyzer densitometers into a computer, most notably the USB key output feature, which you can read about in the product manuals. Regardless, the application isn't going away, and I have been continuing to work on it. One distribution hurdle with this application is code signing. Most notably, both Windows and macOS throw up big scary warnings if you try to install any application which has not yet been signed. On Windows, it is a fairly benign message warning you of an unrecognized app. However, on macOS, it is a far more severe warning making you think you have a corrupted download. The overhead of adding code signing to resolve these issues is a little excessive for what is essentially a small utility app, which is why I've been putting it off until now. That being said, it is still something I should solve, if only to make it easier for anyone who wants to run the desktop app. As such, I'm now in the process of implementing proper code signing for both Windows and macOS builds of the Densitometer desktop application. Getting it set up is a slow process, as it requires various identity verification and validation steps that aren't designed to be quick, but I am working through it. As soon as this is all sorted out, I will be posting updated builds of the application on the website. Finally, here's the project you've all been waiting for an update on, the Printalyzer Enlarging Timer. I've actually been working on this project since before the first Printalyzer Densitometer came out, and it keeps getting put on the back burner. But in all seriousness, the hardware is just about ready. Here's an overview of the current device and its peripherals. On the front, you have a pair of USB ports, a foot switch port, and a blackout switch. On the rear, you have a power input, enlarger and safe light outputs, and a DMX512 compatible expansion port. The peripherals include a baseboard meter probe for determining print exposure, a compact reflection densitometer to help build paper profiles, a basic foot switch, and if I can work out some of the manufacturing kinks, a 7-patch test strip maker. A big part of the delay has been the fact that this product has to plug directly into mains AC, because the majority of enlargers and safe lights are controlled by switching power to mains AC outlets. Doing this as an integral part of the product does provide the best user experience, but anytime you work with mains AC, there are inevitable safety concerns. For as long as I've been working on this project, I've wanted to make this one aspect someone else's problem and someone else's responsibility. But no matter how hard I try, and how many solutions I find or have suggested to me, this is simply not possible. None of the options out there tick all the boxes. It needs to be usable internationally because the users are all over the world. It needs to be easy to integrate without modifications because the moment I have to modify an off-the-shelf product, I now have to take some responsibility if it misbehaves. It has to have all the relevant safety certifications, or I take some responsibility by bundling it as part of my product. It can't be larger than the enlarging timer itself. And finally, it has to be priced low enough to actually be feasible to include as an accessory. Despite way too much time and effort chasing down all the possibilities, there does not seem to be any product out there that actually ticks all these boxes. I know many of you are likely chomping at the bit to suggest something you think I haven't thought about, but there's actually a good chance I have already considered and rejected it for one of the above reasons. Still, if you'd like to try in the comments, I'll reply. Since I can't make this someone else's problem, I've decided to go ahead and do the necessary due diligence to make sure I can do it right myself. So I'm currently working with a local safety testing lab to ensure that the Printalyzer Enlarging Timer meets all the necessary design requirements for safety certification. Fortunately, the necessary changes so far have been quite minor. A little nitpicking on the hardware, and a bit more on the labeling and documentation. From all of this, there will be a few changes to the final revision of the hardware. As soon as that's assembled, I will be moving forward with the final safety and EMC testing. Once those are done, I'm going to begin building a handful of pre-production units and sending them out to a select group of test users. Timeframe-wise, I hope to get these pre-production units out by the end of the year. I'll then spend the following several months working with those test users to refine the software and user experience of the device, with the ultimate goal of going to production sometime next year. So there you have it. The Printalyzer UV VIS Densitometer is almost ready for launch, and the Printalyzer Enlarging Timer is finally back on track and moving forward. As always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. Until next time, bye!